Okay, chapter 15, the cultural legacy of West Africa. So West Africa has really inspired a lot of things that go on in the world today. Some things that continue are oral and written traditions. West African music has played a huge part, and West African visual arts. So if we start with the West African oral and written traditions, one thing to note is that West Africa had these things called grits. They were record keepers of the people. So these people really, really respected because they knew everything, the history, important events. They would speak at ceremonies. They were respected people within the village. It said that they could speak for hours or days, and because of all their knowledge, they became really trusted advisors to people in the West African governments. West African oral and written traditions, we get folk tales. So a lot of cultures have folk tales, and Africa was no different. What a folk tale is a story that is passed along, from generation to generation, and you usually tell them to young people. And it's a way of teaching morals, the way of doing things, and having good values without explicitly saying it. A lot of folk tales come through stories of animals or even mythical creatures. Next, we have proverbs. A proverb is usually just a popular saying, so not completely a story, but maybe a sentence or a quote, and it comes out of wisdom. So somebody who has gone through life or something has then creates some sort of saying, and that saying teaches a lesson or gives advice. So there's an example here. Until the lion has his own storyteller, the hunter will always have the best stories. So that saying right there basically tells you to realize that there's two sides to every story, and the side that speaks up is the side people are going to usually lean towards or think well of. Next, West African oral and written traditions. We have writing. Writings after Islam spread into Africa happened, and because we have more written records, they were able to write down really key information about history, legends, and even the changing culture that was happening. A lot of the writings were preserved in mosques and Quranic schools. Okay, next, West African music. So one really popular legacy from West African music is call and response. So this is a really common style of music where you have a leader usually playing or singing some sort of short phrase, and that's called the call. And then you have a group of people, the chorus, answer that call by playing or singing some sort of short phrase, which is the response. The leader and the chorus repeat this pattern, and over time the song is performed. So this is a legacy because we have enslaved Africans bringing call and response songs to the Americas, and slaves use these songs to get through the burden of all the hard work that they were doing, and this music has kind of stayed with us in African tradition, which has influenced many American music styles, a lot in gospel, jazz, blues, rock and roll, and even rap. Musical instruments. So the picture you're looking at here is a balafon. There are also other instruments that were very common, but later on you're going to watch a video on how this instrument is played. It's pretty cool. Drumming, African drums, like many other cultures, were kind of the center of music. Performances were common were common in general, but especially during parties, religious meetings, ceremonies. The drums are made out of wood, hollowed out wood, and then it's covered in animal skin and, tightened also with some sort of animal piece to make that hollowness makes that sound. Okay, next is West African dance. So just like with drums, they usually went hand in hand. Dances were were performed on many occasions, especially to mark important events. Also, again, since West Africa kept a lot of their previous, religious ideas, they used dances to seek help from spirits or dead ancestors. Okay, so West African visual arts, sculpture. So used for religious purposes in ancient times, and after Islam came, it continued, and it usually represented ancestors. Of course, leaders would get some sort of sculpture made out of them. Not made out of them, made of them. West African masks, so wooden masks were worn during ceremonies, performances, sacred rites. Again, it would bring spirits and ancestors into the present, and another way of, honoring. All right, textiles. I like this one. I like fabrics and things like that. So fabrics, stamped fabrics, story fabrics, kente cloth. They represented proverbs, historical figures, objects, plants, or animals. We talked about textiles in the previous chapter. A lot of times there were geometric designs, and that is not only a West African thing, but we know from our study of Islam that a lot of Islamic art has geometric designs because there's not a lot of drawings of religious figures. Again, colors were brought out in West African fabrics. The style of clothing was influenced from, with Arabic robes and then traditional West African clothing. So this was a huge blend, and the legacy we have, now. People still today wear things like that. And everyday objects. So I know baskets. You think, oh, everybody has baskets. But what's interesting about West African baskets and other everyday objects, but specifically the baskets, is they were woven so tightly that they could carry water. And again, it wasn't just any basket. It had a pattern to it, and it was made to be very beautiful. All of these are things that were traded when more Muslim or Arab traders came, brought into Europe, even brought over to Asia. Okay, your task for the rest of your time is to scan the following QR codes. There are 4 of them. And to watch the videos. All the videos are very short, usually less than a minute long. And answer the questions. When you are done with that, please finish any other work you have. Make sure you are getting your stamps on your table of contents. That's about it. All right, thanks, guys.